This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com. Just came in from a great run out there in negative 13-degree weather, but I was feeling good. Maybe it's because I've been doing the DDP yoga recently, and maybe it's been loosening me up, or maybe it's because I took a couple days off. But I was feeling really good out there. I do have a bit of a stomach ache now, not that any of you care, because I was actually running faster than my normal time tonight. But with the death of Danny Hodge on Christmas Day at 88, great guy. I met him at the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame, Lou Thez, George Tragos Hall of Fame in Iowa back in 2014 when I had a match scouted by Gerald Briscoe and Jim Ross there that they recommended me to NXT from, but NXT canceled my tryout after Briscoe got it for me. But we're not going to talk about that. But it was a pleasure meeting Danny Hodge. But unfortunately, at that point in time, I wasn't really actively doing interviews, or I would have caught something with him. At least I got to meet him and talk to him that day, and what a great guy he was. So I was sad about his passing, even though he lived a great life and he's a true icon. And then we heard yesterday, Boxing Day, that Luke Harper, Brody Lee died due to some type of lung issue that hasn't been disclosed yet at 41. So that took everybody by surprise. I'll get into the whole list of wrestlers' deaths in a minute here. What am I doing up? Don't you know I'm a vampire? And also, we're on lockdown here in Ontario. What the hell do I have to be up and asleep for? Everything's locked down. There's no schedule for Hannibal these days. The one guy that passed away on January 15th, 2020 from a pulmonary embolism was Wayne Douglas Bowles, better known as Rocky Johnson. Does that mean that The Rock's real name is Dwayne Bowles? I don't know. I think Rocky Johnson had his name legally changed. I did do an interview with Rocky Johnson, and this one actually was shocking to me because I was supposed to do the part 2 interview with Rocky Johnson, and I think it was March at a convention he was going to attend in Albany. So when he passed away in January, I was really shocked by it. And I really felt that I had kind of a connection with him on our first interview, which I'm glad I did, as it documented his career. But I was sorry to see that he passed away. On January 22nd, Hercules Ayala, also known as Ruben Cruz, passed away. I believe he was from Edmonton, very popular in Puerto Rico. Never met him. Rip Oliver passed away on March 5th, 2020, and he'd been sick for a long time. We were actually going to use Rip Oliver with Billy Jack Haynes at the Hannibal TV booth at WrestleCon 2020 had it happened. And I was bringing him as a favor to Billy Jack Haynes, who was taking care of him. Never actually talked to Rip because he was very sick, but I did talk to Billy Jack a lot during the period of time Rip was nearing the end. So I know Billy Jack took that very hard, and he was living with Rip, taking care of him in Florida, but he moved back to Oregon now. He's living with somebody. To my knowledge, he doesn't have his own phone, but he did leave me a message a few months ago that he was all right, but it was from someone else's phone. So he said, don't call back the number. Dean Silverstone of the Cauliflower Alley Club passed away on March 26th, 2020. Now, I am not saying the wrestlers that I'm not familiar with because there's a long list. I'm saying the wrestlers that I have met or had interaction with. Dean Silverstone, I've had interactions with through the Cauliflower Alley Club. Dick Steinborn, I know he was involved in Stampede Wrestling at one point. He passed away April 18th, 2020. Controversial character. I am supposed to do an interview with Ross Hart either this week or next week. Maybe he'll be able to inform us a bit about him. Howard Finkel passed away on April the 16th, 2020, also known as the Fink. Everyone remembers. My favorite ring announcer of all time is, of course, Michael Buffer, but Howard Finkel was one of the top ones for sure. Definitely the most memorable WWE Madison Square Garden ring announcer. Now I couldn't even tell you a ring announcer. I don't even know if Justin Roberts still announces or not, and I don't know him as a ring announcer. I only know him from all the controversies that came out of his book. So there's not as many famous ring announcers. I will give a shout out to Dan Masters, the PCW Ultra ring announcer that does a great job, and there's some other good ones out there. I'm not saying there's bad ones. I'm just saying there's not that many that I can really identify with. I know SWE Fury has a good one too. Great North Wrestling. And sorry to say, we haven't really found the ring announcer. We've had a revolving door of ring announcers. It's a tough job. So sorry about the Fink. He was a very loyal employee to Vince, and I think he may have been one of the first, if not the first, WWE employee. Shad Gaspard passed away by drowning, saving his son May 17th, 2020. He was one half of Crime Time. I did several interviews with him and JTG. I knew I did a long interview with him. That one was hard for everybody to take. Shad Gaspard, very friendly guy. I really liked him in my interactions. I wouldn't say I was his friend because I didn't know him, but in the maybe handful of interactions I had with him, they were all positive. I have only heard of this guy. I don't know much about him, but on May 6, 2020, Lester Perfors, known as Supreme in that XPW promotion, passed away. Killer Tim Brooks, who had a very popular name in the Texas territory. I actually posted an award that Tim Brooks was given by SWE Fury recently. It may have been his last ever wrestling appearance. I posted it on the Hannibal TV. It's also on the SWE Fury YouTube channel. Receiving an award from James Beer and the SWE Fury team. The Grappler was there too. He passed away due to cancer on June 30th, 2020. I wasn't that familiar with him, but I heard he was a great heel. Mr. Wrestling 2, John Francis Walker, passed away on June 9th, 2020. He lived in the Atlanta area and back in the glory days of wrestling. You certainly would know who he is. This one, I'm even sad thinking about it now. Joe Laurinaitis, Road Warrior Animal, passed away September 22nd, 2020 of natural causes at 60 years old, which is pretty young to die. From what I understand, natural causes, if there was something else involved, I'm unaware of it, but I'm sorry to hear. I was devastated, actually, because I had some communication with him just a few days before, and I did consider him a friend. We'd used him in Great North Wrestling. I'd run into him at conventions. I ran into him at a PCW Ultra event that I was covering, and I think I might have had the last long interview with him too. He passed away in September. I interviewed him in June, and that's on the Hannibal TV, and I did another interview with him before that too, and he was the referee for one of my matches in Great North Wrestling, which I consider one of the highlights of my career. We had over 1,000 fans there, and They went wild when he came out that night. The Road Warrior pop was alive and well. I don't think there's any wrestler today of the new generation that gets a Road Warrior pop. Jackie Stallone, who was affiliated with Glow, of course, the mother of Sylvester Stallone, passed away September 21st. Hollywood blonde Gerald Brown passed away September 15th, a little bit before my time. Rick Drayson passed away August 30th. Now, he was better known for his bodybuilding videos in recent years, but he was also a wrestler. I don't know if I've ever seen him in an actual wrestling match. I know he was friends with Bill Anderson and a bunch of people, but I did watch a lot of his bodybuilding videos. He had a YouTube channel, and he was very open about steroid cycles and so forth in those videos. But I never got an interview with him. I tried to interview him, but I never heard back from him. Bullet Bob Armstrong, also known as Joseph M. James, passed away August 27th, 2020. The leader of the Armstrong clan, that the Road Dogg Jesse James is probably the most successful out of them. Brad Armstrong was very good as well. He had a good run in WCW. There is a video on here of Ron Fuller and Kevin Sullivan talking about Bullet Bob Armstrong on the Hannibal TV that people should check out. This was a sad one, although we all knew it was coming. August 9th, 2020, James Kamala Harris, the Ugandan giant, passed away. He'd been battling diabetes. He lost both of his legs. Now, the strange thing about Kamala, who I'd done a shoot interview with, by the way, if anyone knows how to fix, he lived in a trailer, okay, and it was hot, and he had diabetes. He'd been close to death for years, but we could not turn off the air conditioner in his trailer due to his health, and there was a background noise, and that was my most regretful shoot interview because there is background noise in it. If anyone knows how to fix up the audio so I could repost it with better quality audio, please message me, greatnorthwrestling@gmail.com. If anyone could clean it up, I really would like to post a better audio version on there. But I wrestled him. Great guy. And yeah, the weird part about his death is, as many of the subscribers know on this channel, I randomly post videos where I talk about experiences I've had with various wrestlers like Lanny Poffo, the Honky Tonk Man, Vader, Sid, PCO. And the one I did about Kamala, I did it about this time, 5 a.m, the day he died. And then I went to the gym at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I remember getting out of the gym, checking my YouTube comments, and it's full of comments. How did you know before anyone else? I didn't. I just randomly was thinking of Kamala that day and did that clip talking about Kamala. So that was a strange coincidence that he was on my mind randomly the day he died, almost as if I knew he was dead. But yeah, I was sad. When I went to his house, he had food there for me, and I remember he had a box of donuts, of honey donuts. Yes, he had diabetes, but he was still eating donuts, and they were really good. They were really good, and it was a pleasure to see him again. And I was so sad. It almost makes me want to cry when I drove away, knowing that I probably never would see him again. So Patterson also passed away December 2nd, 2020. Controversial figure, to say the least. I didn't have many interactions with him. I had one very positive interaction with him where he was actually the reason I was signed by WWE. And I felt I had a connection with him that day. And to me, that was like a big moment in my life. And then, but in his defense, he was suffering from dementia and memory issues. But when I saw him 10 years later, he didn't even remember me. So it was kind of disappointing because that talk that he had with me that day was like a very memorable day in my life. But my interactions with him were positive, the interactions I had. But unfortunately, his handler, the asshole piece of shit that wrote his book, would not allow me to interview him that day at the Cauliflower Alley Club. So I didn't get an interview with him. And it's funny because that same day, there was also a lecture done by another Quebec wrestler whose name is escaping me right now, Alexis Smirnoff. And this was like a lecture about his career in Quebec wrestling. And this same piece of shit that wrote Patterson's book, complete mark, loser, scumbag, would not allow us to tape this lecture that Alexis Smirnoff gave at the Cauliflower Alley Club because he doesn't like me, because he's a mark and he believes my heel character, which means I'm a great heel. Thank you. But the sad thing is Smirnoff died. So it's like we could have captured his career, him talking about his career on tape. But because you don't like me, there's very little to nothing of Alexis Smirnoff in video form online as far as interviews and stuff. We did capture his Hall of Fame award or his Cauliflower Alley award that year, but that lecture would have been nice and he would have appreciated it. And my cameraman, who was French, did say it seemed like Smirnoff was very disappointed that his handler would not let our crew record that lecture, which the Cauliflower Alley Club let us record every other lecture. But he's your typical French piece of shit that I won't even say his name. There are very good French people, of course, but he's all the bad stereotypes. Bob Ryder passed away November 25th, 2020. Tracy Smothers, who has my second longest shoot interview that I've ever done, passed away October 28th, 2020. I really liked him, and the first time I met him, I actually found out he was a fan of mine that watched this channel. And that was one of the first famous wrestlers that told me that they watched my channel. And I was so shocked that like he was asking me about all these videos that I did. And you use the term, I very rarely use the term humbling, but I was humbled that Tracy Smothers had seen my videos. So I stayed in contact with him. He's always been one of my biggest supporters, not telling me not to give up on wrestling because he thought I had a lot of potential as a wrestler. He really liked me. He was an advisor to me. I remember before the last kickboxing shoot exhibition match I had, he was calling me the week of, giving me little pep talks. So he was like a real big supporter of mine, and I didn't talk to him too much. Actually, I did probably within the last year, I did a phone interview with him to promote one of the fundraisers, and we exchanged messages, but I felt so bad for him that's why I didn't talk to him. I just felt terrible, and I also didn't want to bother him. because I knew he was suffering. And the last message he told me was he was suffering a lot, and it was very hard. And the last guy I'm going to talk about, there's been other deaths, but the last guy I'm going to talk about passed away December the 10th. Tommy Tiny Lister, better known to wrestling fans as Zeus, who was also known as Debo in the Friday series, in tons of movies and TV shows, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Quentin Tarantino's Jackie Brown, a John Candy movie, a Michael Jackson video. He was on Matlock, for crying out loud. He did stuff on Star Trek. He played the President of the United States in The Sixth Element. And I did a video about my interaction with Zeus. He was a great guy. Really liked him. And I was very sorry to hear that he passed away. And I am going to be talking to a guy that Zeus talked about in his shoot interview with me that people can look up on here. I think it was a great interview, the one I did with Zeus. Real honor. I was a fan of his. And one of the guys that would take care of him in WWE behind the scenes and help drive him around and stuff was Dusty Wolf, also known as Dale Wolf, who was an enhancement guy. I'm doing an interview with him Tuesday at 4 p.m. on here. And yeah, he's a great guy, Zeus. But Dusty's going to talk to me specifically about memories of being on the road with Zeus, letting us know the other side. The truth is, he was a great actor, and he's one of the nicest wrestlers I ever met. I'll go into a few of your comments. Again, there's more that have died. I talked about the ones I knew and had personal interactions with. The Kiosk was a big Brody Lee fan. Only Greg, too many good people gone too soon. Yeah, it makes you wonder when you have the Abdullah the Butcher of the world living into their 80s, and seems like I didn't know him, but from most accounts, it seems like Brody Lee was a good guy, passing away at 41. Chad Gaspard passing away really young. Nathaniel Patton took Brody Lee's death hard. I didn't really see much of him wrestle or know him, so it wasn't really that big of a hit to me, but it was shocking. You wouldn't expect him to die. Mike says he didn't know about the Fink. Main Man says R.I.P. to the Fink. The Rye Dog says his favorite announcer was Chuck Allen. Mike says the Fink announced all the matches he watched as a kid. It was mostly Billy Red Lyons at the Canadian shows that I went to, who was he also did the events center for WWE. He's long gone. Vo Hall says lots of legends lost in 2020. Billy Graham's health still isn't good. I actually had some communication with Billy Graham over the last few days. It is sad that he's suffering so much, but for him, he's just a tough son of a bitch. He's really, really tough. And yes, he took steroids. Okay, but he's in his late 70s. And for everyone that wants to blame all of his health issues on steroids, give me a break. He was a professional boxer, a professional CFL player, and a professional wrestler for decades. You have to blame some of his health issues on being in contact sports as well at top levels. Canceled Vendetta says, what a shitty year. It has been a terrible year. And to end it off here, they put us on lockdown to start off 2020 here in Canada, which is just so depressing. But I'm trying to stay positive, and I'm glad I have you guys to talk to. McEvoy says it's so sad with Shad saving his son. Great wrestler. There's a guy they should have put in AEW. There's so many like little guys that don't even look like wrestlers, don't look like they could bust a balloon, and yet Shad Gaspard, a legitimate tough guy full of charisma, wasn't being used by a major company at the time of his death. The Roy Dog says Killer Tim Brooks was also very popular in the Detroit area. Mike is shocked he didn't know Animal was sick. I don't know how he died. I actually just posted an interview clip of Crimson and Jax Dane, who they're part of the SWE Fury roster now. Jax Dane is a former NWA champion. He's been in New Japan. Both of them have been in Impact, I believe Ring of Honor. But they were close with Animal. Animal managed them. And when I asked them about Animal's cause of death, they said they didn't want to talk about it. It's on the internet. But when I looked it up, it just said natural causes. So what did they know that they didn't want to talk about if it's just natural causes? But at 60 years old, who knows? I'm just sad that he's gone. R.I.P. Sakulu. Don't know what you're referring to there. Mike says R.I.P. Bullet Bob Armstrong. And Kamala was huge in world-class championship wrestling. Yes, he was. That was a tough one for me, man. Dennis, sad to see these guys go. Sadder when they're broke. It is. It is. It is. It really is. Ken Smith believes Michael Jackson is alive. The kiosk says piece of shit for the guy that denied me the Alexis Smirnoff and Pat Patterson interviews. At some point, we're there to cover and document history. You can't take it personal. People that know me personally can tell you that I will put business ahead of personal vendettas any day of the week. And it's just sad when, like, yeah, there's tons of history on Pat. Big deal that I didn't get to interview Pat, although I would have put him over. I mean, I did read the book. And again, I'll say it wasn't a bad book. I liked the book on Pat. I'll say that. But the guy personally that wrote it is a scumbag. Complete, fat, dork, typical Frenchman. You'd see arrogant, pompous Frenchman in a movie. Complete scumbag. Pulverizer says the CIC should be recording everything. Well, it's a budget thing. They let us record a few of their reunions, which we did. Anyone that goes there can record stuff. Very few do. Lee it's funny. I'll just say one last thing for the people that like to insult me and so forth about recording the Cauliflower Alley Club thing, and they could do a better job than me. Well, do it. Nobody's stopping anyone. Anyone can record stuff at these events. I just did it. Okay, I hate people that talk and they don't. It's put up or shut up. Wild Eye Southern Boy Tracy Smothers. Jay Rogers say my interviews are awesome. Thank you, my man. The Roy Dog, thanks a lot. I do that. I'm happy that I can now do this as a job, but I really love talking to a lot of these people that I talk to. Chubby Cox did not like Alexis Smirnoff. I wasn't even there. It was my cameraman that asked, and as I said, my cameraman was a fan of his because he was from Quebec. And it was his handler, not Alexis, that denied us recording that lecture. But I don't want to turn this into a negative. I was just saying that was sad from his perspective, because most people from today that aren't old school fans don't know who he is. So at least that video would have shown up in Google searches. Dennis watched a bunch of Billy Graham's old WWE run, Superstardom. It's sad that WWE puts him on the ban list for the Thunderdome and doesn't use the knowledge he has, because he is a wealth of knowledge, I can tell you that, but that's a lost case. They'll put out figures, and when he dies, they'll start to glorify him again. The WWE family, right? Because AEW and WWE, they're just families. They're families. If you piss them off, they'll support you no matter what, just like your family will. If you get criminal charges, they'll be there for you. If you can't perform anymore, they'll be there for you. I don't think so. 1979, Augustine says WWE does not stand behind wrestlers when they're old. Gave everything to the business. That's what's wrong. The cases are few and far between. Look at Gerald Briscoe, who got released. And everyone thought he would be one of the guys that they would take care of forever. James hopes I come to Scotland one day. I've been there before. My last name is actually Scottish, Nicholson. I do have Scottish blood, and I'm adopted, but my family has Scottish roots. My grandfather was married to 2 Scottish women, my adopted family. Not to break off into that, but my grandfather, he was married to 2 Scottish women. 1979, Augustine tips me $5. Thank you. Every tip helps me get other interviews. Larry, any more interviews with Ken Patera? Sure. He's an entertaining guy. Ethereal Fox, the way Brett and Owen were in life reminds of his relationship with his own brother. Shay Harrison says family is far. You cannot think of your employer as family. I'm sorry. They might like to present themselves as families. I only have independent contractors working for me as WWE, and I would never say anyone in Great North Wrestling is family members. They're independent contractors. Guys like Jeremy Prophet, who I am friends with outside of wrestling, I would still never say is a family member. And I'm just honest. This guy says my interviews is the main thing you watch in wrestling these days. SG Fulton 83, thank you. Chug Alert tips me $6.99. Pulverizer, no, he married my father's mother. She was Scottish. And when she passed away, he married her sister. They're both passed away now, so God bless them, as well as my grandfather and my own grandmother. Let me throw that in. The closest person in the world to me passed away this year in November, and that was truly devastating to me. Gregory Krug tips $5 to me. Chubby, Alexis is dead. Alexis is dead. We're not going to defame him. He's dead. That's the whole point of why I was saying it was sad that his handler didn't let me interview him. Noel, am I thinking of interviewing George Chuvalo? Yes, but the COVID is really screwing my life up for interviews, and I highly doubt he's that technical, but I've read his book more than once, and I really have a lot of respect for him. 420 Benton liked my Warlord interview. Mint Diggity says RIP to my grandmother. So, yes, we'll end it at that because I'm really sad thinking about it. That makes me not want to talk anymore. But she lived a long life, and she was suffering a lot. And I was one of the ones taking care of her towards the end. And, yeah, I miss her a lot. Bye.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us